Hello, everyone, and welcome to this really special conversation today, where we have four of the key members of Soul Tribe, which has just actually celebrated its first anniversary. It's a really visionary yoga platform that's attracting people like myself from across the ocean. So our aim today is to talk about the individual vision of each of you wonderful yogis here. And we're just about to start Gene Key's yoga immersion. As far as I know, this is the first time this is going to happen, so that's super exciting. And I'm going to be the guide for the Gene Keys immersion, and then these other amazing women will be weaving their wonderful yoga offerings and other offerings around that. So this is to kind of give you a sense of what that's going to be about. So we're going to begin with you, Tara. I know that you were, as it were, the visionary behind Soul Tribe. And so I'd love to just know a bit about your vision and where, what was the philosophy behind it? What is your big idea of what you would like to see happen? And for you Gene Keys people out there watching, what kind of pops out of Tara's chart that I'd like to share is that she has the culture sphere, which connects with the collective, is Gene Key 63 in the line 2, and that's about the gift of inquiry and the city of truth. And you actually also have that as your purpose in the line 2. So that's interesting. You have this connection between your individual purpose and the collective is very strong there in the profile. So, and you're also a 6-2 profile, which means that you're a kind of teacher, role model, visionary. And then the 2 is connected with partnership. And it also has connections with posture and fluids, quite interestingly, for a yogi. So I'll hand over to you, Tara, just to give us your lowdown on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Allison. It's so wonderful to be here and to be able to speak, about Soul Tribe Online, which is, especially over the last couple of years, has come into fruition, that we are able to come together as community. And for me personally, the vision of it forms around the question of what an Aquarian model would look like. And in yoga, we often speak to this idea of the Aquarian vision, that we have moved now into a period of time from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, where all kinds of things are shifting, and business shifts too, and offerings shift too. And while the Aquarian age is consistently revealing itself, I try to stay open to what wants to come through on the level of business. And I don't even know that, businesses per se are an Aquarian model, but the question is, with Soul Tribe Online, if a business could be an Aquarian model, what would that look like? And so we've stayed open here at the top and at the bottom at the foundation, and it's become an offering of the heart, I think, from all of us, and also a great experiment in a lot of ways. And we've been experimenting so much in just a short period of time. And as a healer and as a business owner, what that means, the Aquarian business model, is shifting. It's shifting constantly. So I don't even have the words to express what that might look like. But I am hoping that this platform can be a place where we can all ask that question and allow it to evolve alongside of us. So it's a place I do know that serves people, and that serves versatile needs, and it gives back. And it also creates an equilateral platform for teachers and for students. And coming out of a Piscean age, and even yoga being held in a Piscean model for the last few thousand years, actually, we are all very, very well adapted to that model. Like that's just how we've been teaching. That's how, as healers, we've been operating. And anytime we try to like step out of that model, it's challenging. It's like, what do we do now? I know that a lot of us offer Seva services, or we offer sliding fee scales or by donation. And while that has its own flow and its own place, it was a difficult place to be, as a business owner or an entrepreneur. Or how did you like bridge these two places, these two ages, these ways of seeing things? And then also from the perspective of the ego, which, as healers, as yogis, we're consistently in conversation with. How do we come together on an equal platform? And this is important because this is what the Aquarian age will be built upon. So coming out of the Piscean hierarchy, there always will be a hierarchy of necessity built into the human experience, because there is a mundane and then there is a less mundane world. However, to bridge that as teachers, what does that look like? And so I think we've come together here on this platform and provided a community building opportunity where even the teachers themselves are students. We're students of one another. We're students of the collective evolvement. And we're also students of our teachers. And there's not a particular teacher at the top. We're all here together. We're all building together. We're all learning together, and we're sharing together. Like we've all come here and brought our students into this space together, and to be able to let go of them. And that really is like the ultimate place to be as a teacher, I think, is to be able to peel away the ego and the attachment to even the idea of, what a student is. And students are ultimately our teachers as well. And so to be a really, really good teacher, you want to bring in as much blessing, as much information, as much potential as possible. But what does that look like as far as, financial flow in an entrepreneurial place? Also, we want to be able to support teachers and to hold them up, and to also provide flow for them so that they can become even greater teachers in the mundane world. And then that helps them to also stay open at the top. And gosh, is there anything else here? I wrote down a few notes. Oh, I was going to say that whole idea, Allison, of the teachers and the students, coming together and being together. You're just such a perfect example of that, because you came here, as Adarsh's student with celestial communication and all of the beautiful offerings that she brings here. And you've also been a teacher throughout that, offering, just being so dedicated as a student that it moved all the way around the cycle, and you were able to consistently give us these beautiful teachings and offerings over the last year that I myself have been so pulled toward, and just love what you do. And then here you are with us, as a teacher. And it seems like that Soul Tribe Online created a space for that relationship and for that to happen. And I'm really, really grateful for that.
Yeah, it does always feel like a bit of a miracle that I landed in Soul Tribe at all. So, yeah, well, that's really fascinating, Tara, because one of the central concepts in the Gene Keys, which really drew me, is this future society, and Gene Keys has a word for it, which is Synarchy. And I really perceive in Soul Tribe two of the main things that a Synarchy has, one of which is that it's non-hierarchical. And I think to achieve that is actually a massive thing in itself, because the urge to take control by yourself as the founder must be very hard to resist sometimes. And well, there's just all kinds of way that, like you say, we're programmed into this Piscean model. And so to be non-hierarchical effectively means to let go, be out of control. And we find that quite hard as humans. And the other key thing is that each of the people within the Soul Tribe matrix, which would include, I think, teachers and participants, is following their own inner guidance, their own intuition. So there's not someone saying, right, this week you're going to teach this, and Susan's going to do this, and Adarsh is going to do this. Each person is allowing, if you like, that flow from the creator to come through them. And so there's infinite potential for growth in that model and for quantum leaping as well. Okay, so we're going to move on to Susan now. I've been fascinated, Susan, from the start. You joined a little bit later on. Because you're a marine biologist and as well as a yogi, and myself and my partner is one of the few female ocean master level sailors in the UK. So we have had a lot to do with the sea, and I just love the sea, really. And now what is amazing is you actually share the same profile as my partner, which is called the Cross of Eden. And so it's very connected into nature. You can tell from the name, the Cross of Eden. And the 36 Gene Keys life work moves from turbulence, which I always feel the sea captures that wild, turbulent energy, and it moves into the city of compassion. And one other fascinating little thing is that you also have this Gene Key 63 about inquiry and truth as your culture sphere. That's the one that connects to the collective. And you have it in what's called the attractor sphere as well. So it's interesting, you and Tara have shared the 63 and possibly, the attraction to each other is through, not just, I think that's the Aquarian thing. It's not just about accepting what government or doctors or whatever say. It's like life is about finding out, is about the inquiry. So yeah, I just wanted to ask you, Susan, to talk about how I'm fascinated about how these two parts of yourself, the scientist and the yogi, kind of come together. And what is your vision for the future? What got you into Soul Tribe?
Well, thank you so much for having us, and thank you to Tara for that beautiful introduction about Soul Tribe. It all resonates so much, and I'm reflecting on how long I've been teaching on Soul Tribe. I believe I launched with an immersion in February of 2020. And so, sort of coming up on a year, and I was calling in like an opportunity to teach on a platform. And And Jennifer contacted me and, and invited me in. And I was like, okay, so, a lot of what I am doing is like really manifesting but being open, just at very much like Tara was saying, is like being open to whatever that flow is. And as you said, I'm a marine biologist. I'm a scientist, super logical, very direct. I am also fascinated by astrology and I've been learning more and more about it, but I didn't really know anything about gene keys. And I found everything you sent us to be so interesting and totally on point. And but I balance all of this with, because I'm a Pisces, I am super sensitive, super empathic. And so I've spent much of my adult life allowing myself to be that, like allowing myself to be intuitive and listen and actually trust it. And so it took me decades to get here, but I feel like I'm at a point where I really listen to my intuition, and I'm still working full-time as a marine biologist. I'm actually now more of a communicator, a science communicator, and it's my passion to share our work, this very important work that we do with the world. But then I'm also a communicator in terms of teaching and healing. And I have a podcast, Third Eye Science, and that's the whole idea there too, is blurring the lines between science and spirituality. Because much like you were saying, I really believe that those two things don't have to be opposite. And I even remember as a child being like, I grew up in a church, like going to church, we were Lutheran, and I never understood why evolution and God couldn't coexist. Like even as a child, I thought that, like, why couldn't animals evolve? And so it's like really the dogma of all the things that our society and culture often is trying to put us in a box. And I don't fit in a box, and none of us do. Literally none of us, but especially nobody on Soul Tribe, I believe. And, and it's like, we have to really just show people around us that we can be ourselves no matter what. And so I do a lot. I really just started doing healings a few years ago. And that was through what woke me up to it was Trishula Kriya, which is a very powerful Kundalini, like fundamental Kundalini Kriya meditation, where you visualize, and I'm very visual, you visualize the energy from your hands shooting out. It's the thunderbolt of Shiva. And after doing that, I think I did it for 6 months or something. Somewhere along the way, I was like, oh, like there's energy coming out of my hands and I'm a healer, and like, I actually believe that we all are, and we all are capable of moving energy. And so it just started me down this beautiful path of learning many, many different techniques. And so what I love to do is bring it all together. So in my classes, we do movement, breath, meditations, and healing, and it all fits perfectly together, in my opinion. So it's really something I'm super grateful for. I also believe that I'm meant to be in my job to kind of also just show these very logical, scientific minded people that someone like me fits there too, right? and so they all know me as the one with the crystals, and like they asked me to manifest weather, like, we had a live stream event from our ship, and it was like the weather was threatening to be bad enough that we wouldn't be able to dive. We have submersibles, and I really did just like have a conversation with the elements the night before. And I think my boss and my team, like they laugh and they think it's funny, but I know it's kind of sinking in too. So I think it's really about this, like, what does an Aquarian leader look like? Well, we don't fit in a box. We don't do things the way it was done before, and we're willing to try new things. So I think that's what we all really are doing so uniquely here.
Oh, thank you, Susan. And one thing you might be interested in is that this 36 is associated with animal whisperers.
Oh.
I know that when you were talking, I was just thinking, yeah, like Jay could change the weather and call the whales and the dolphins, all of that, you know, kind of magical sort of thing. So, yeah, thank you. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going to talk at the end about our connections with Chiron, the wounded healer, and also Uranus. And so I'm kind of actually also going in age order that we incarnated into the planet. So Tara was 74. Susan 75. I'm 1970, by the way. And now we have the two 1977 really powerful kind of revolutionary year. And what's quite interesting, I don't know if you've been following the US Tennis Open and all of that kind of amazing things that have happened there, but there's a direct link to 1977. And the commentators keep talking about it, and it does just feel like miraculous things kind of can just happen with this energy. So Jenn, I was really wondering whether you had Gene Key 29, which is all about commitment and devotion. Because Jenn gets up at 6 every morning and does this amazing, beautiful half-hour practice, and you have it as part of your activation sequence, and it's what's called your evolutionary sphere. It's a really important sphere in the whole matrix of gene keys. Yeah, and you're also a 6-2 profile, the same as Tara. Yeah, and I forgot to mention that Susan, you're a 4-6, so there's a lot of connection with the visionary teacher energy, and then also the relationship heart energy in all of your 4 profiles. Yeah, and the other thing that popped out for me, Jenn, I sent you this podcast I'd made on Gene Key 34 and a conversation about Russia and Siberia, which have been allocated this massive gene key, and you have it twice in your profile. And I feel it from you. It's like your prana's like out there somewhere in the universe, you know. So one thing I want you to talk about your vision as well, Jenn. And I was fascinated that you'd just been in the Amazon, I think. Is that true? Because I really connect this Gene Key 34 to shamanism, as well, and that whole kind of way we weave with nature and the power of nature. And the one thing like I loved about you in particular is you would always say the guru is within us. You know, don't worship the guru out there, find the guru within. And I felt like it was really Aquarian, like really, yes, you know, this is the message I've been wanting to hear. And we're so programmed into feeling like God or whatever, the guru is out there, it's not in us. So that's so immensely liberating. So I'll hand over the mic now. Stop chattering for a moment anyway.
Well, thank you, Allison, and thank you again so much. I know everyone has mentioned, just our gratitude for you being here and on this soul tribe journey since the beginning. And as Tara mentioned, your gifts, I think, have given us so much of a gift as well. So I'm so happy to see you now having this offering and broadening the community around the Gene Key, because I know we all have so much to learn, and those coming in, and just feels very abundant. So thank you. Gosh, there's so much that Gene Key 34 I read, and I was like, wow, that does really have resonance. Kind of just this, it's taken me a long time to kind of own my own power. I think from an early age, I realized it, I understood it. I've always really believed in self-initiation, even at an early age, with teachers. I just never really kind of gave my power. You never really heard from me like, that's my teacher, from an early age. And also, even when I began in the Kundalini world, I have a lot of teachers that have helped me on my path and have inspired me deeply, and I've learned from, but I've never said that's my teacher. And that's just been kind of me and my way of being. And then looking at my profile as you've given it, I kind of see how that was me, like just in my being. But, for me, in terms of a vision, I love to be inspired. I love, thinking and being involved in creating visions. But for me, really simply, like, in this time and in these days, like my vision is just that my presence is my greatest present. And so it's how to continue working on building my own inner resources in such a way that just walking in a room, I can help to shift that energy. And then that then models, what is possible for everyone else. Kundalini yoga and meditation for me has been such a deep practice of learning and how to work with that in a quicker way, in a quicker way to work with all the various bodies. And as you mentioned, I love the pranic body and I love working with the subtle bodies. So, these daily meditations usually involve some breath work as well as mantra, and, working with the sound current. But, and it's, thank you for mentioning the Amazon too. That was very new for me. This was a big adventure. I left for the first time for a full 2 weeks. And left my family, and I felt very at home. I felt like, wow, I've been here before. And again, it was just, as you mentioned, yeah, I think that home also felt just being so immersed in nature, and also remembering, that these practices that are, occurring in the Amazon and with the indigenous people, these are also practices that, we have the ability to work with, to sit with, to learn from, and to practice, here. And some of it is just the simplicity of, connecting to the breath and planting your feet on the ground. And I do have even, I would say, greater calling now for Gaia, for Mother Earth, and, for her protection and the way in which we steward that, in the future. So my own personal practice, what I offer on Soul Tribe is for all of us just to become, really strong, in our own knowing of just the direction our life is to take. There's no right or wrong. It's just this knowing of how to connect into these higher vibrations, these higher frequencies, and ultimately for me, how to help steward, the planet for all future generations as well.
Wow, that's like a huge vision. That's amazing. And yeah, I love that because it's actually, it feels like I'm just learning this right now, that Soul Tribe isn't just about people, it's actually about the entire planet as well, and our relationship to each other and the planet. That seems like such a the most important thing like we could do right now is pay attention to that. So thank you, thank you. So now we get to Adarsh, and I feel quite emotional, Adarsh, because I came to Soul Tribe. I didn't know you at the time, but I'd heard of you, and I was already doing this amazing practice that you have has been birthed from your creativity called celestial communication. Your life work is the 28, which is all about purpose and immortality. It's actually one I have twice in my profile, and it's really deep. It's a very deep one, and you have so much Scorpio energy. I was like, wow, when I looked at your chart, which is kind of amazing because like in celestial communication is so light and graceful and beautiful, and yet there's all this kind of Scorpio emotion flowing around it as well. Yeah, and it's a beautiful practice because for me it brought out a feminine part of myself I had never contacted, you know, so I'm quite a tomboyish kind of girl anyway, but it's like suddenly some kind of beauty awoke in me, that I saw myself as beautiful, and I experienced especially the movement of my arms and hands as beautiful. So I mean that's just a massive gift. You know, never mind anything else. So the thing I'd like to talk to you about, and is about your creative process, and also your chart is slightly different in terms of the lines, which I'm going to go into in the course that we're doing. But you what's called a 5-3, so you have a lot of power and leadership qualities actually in that line, whereas the 6 are more kind of the visionaries. The 5s are the powerhouse that makes it happen. so so yeah, so I'd just love to hear about how you birth this creatively. I don't know if it's even possible to tell us that, but and your vision as well. You know, why are you in Soul Tribe?
Wow, thank you so much, Allison. And I echo everyone. I mean, you have been such a gift to be a part of the Celestial Communication Group, and also to get to know you in these many months, and I guess a year now. I just want to echo what everyone has said. I'm deeply grateful, and I'm so grateful to learn about gene keys through you as well, because I didn't know, and like others have said, that really when I read it and I listened to some things as well, I was like, yes, this is me. It's such a, and it feels like such a way of self-understanding that is very whole. Like, I mean, I know a lot of systems, right? I've done my charts and I don't know, my numbers, all the things, you know, and I really felt this kind of wholeness. And I guess, like we've said, the Aquarian nature of it, like kind of this big potential feeling in it that's our individual selves, you know, with the collective. So I'm just grateful for all of it so much. And with celestial communication, it's interesting also what you were just saying about me, that, you know, the depth and the, yeah, I think I'm a deeply emotional person. And I think one of the things that draws me to this practice and why I create it as well is that it is a type of meditation where it's very emotional. It's actually like working very in a sensory way, like feeling the music with the body, like listening with the body, and also expressing and chanting with the body. And we know this now, right? We talk about it more now, like how our emotions are in the body, or they're not something disassociated from the body. So I feel it is this way to really experience kind of our depths and our emotions and our sensitivity, which I think that's a lot of me there, in a very beautiful way, in an artistic way, and a way that does have this beauty that you also spoke of in your experience. And I did have a reading this summer, and someone did tell me this, like, you're supposed to take like the shadow, deep, dark stuff of life and this deep psychology that I connect with, and I connect it with something beautiful. And so I'm like, yeah, I guess that is celestial communication. That is what we're doing. I think that I've always been extremely musically inclined, and there's a few things I'll say about it. So first is, I feel the practice is, in addition to this emotional expression, it's a way to connect to source and a way to connect to our soul. So just like for me, also nature is a way, like I need that replenishment to connect with source through nature. I need it through community and really like authentic and sacred connections. And I also, for me, music, it's like those would be like probably the trio for me. So also the community aspect, why Soul Tribe also is interesting to me, and why, I want to connect because of that community element. But for me, music has just been a thread, since I was like, I just sang and danced, like as soon as I could like make noise and move, I was just like, I was put into ballet at 2.5, because like, as soon as like, I could go to any kind of a class, because I just automatically express so much. And I think I sang like terribly off key as a young child, but I just sang loud and freely, it didn't, and I just picked up whatever I had access to in my environments, right? I didn't always have access to what I'm doing now, but whatever it was, I learned the songs, whatever it was, I would do the movements, anything I could have connection with. I did have, I would say, like my precursor to what the celestial communication is came about when I was like 14. I think this was an important piece for me. And I also loved that, Susan, you also grew up Lutheran in a Lutheran church, me too. And so I was, so into music. So I was teaching children music as a young teenager, teaching like little ones, like 3 to 5 years old. And, what's really natural, I think many music teachers do this. I know it was true for me when I was a child. Kids can, like they're learning how to use their voices and use their bodies. So it's really natural, I think, to make these arm movements with the songs. It even helps to remember them. And also, all of this wasn't so conscious, when I was 14, but, I can see it now, like, it helps to build the confidence to move through the body, which is actually true for adults as well. So it's one of the things is it does build the confidence and leadership. That's an aspect of this celestial communication. And just for anyone I'm realizing now who's listening, who doesn't know what this is, it's like a seated meditation, moving the arms, the hands, the fingers, just the upper body in a creative way. And moving with music, moving with like a mantra or with some kind of a sacred song. So when I was 14, there were these sacred songs, about God, about love, about joy. And we were doing this with the kids, and I would make them up. There were ones that like already existed, like If I Were a Butterfly. I don't know if anyone grew up in any of these traditions, but I also just would create them. And then they would, also the children would share it with the whole community. So that was a part of it too. Like the children would learn this in music class, and then we would have something where they would lead it for the whole community. So then when I was 21 is when I was introduced to Kundalini yoga and meditation. And I discovered that this same practice is a part of it. This creative, it's not prescribed, the movements. It's like meant for any individual to create it, or group. You can also create them together with other people, which is fun. So I was just astonished because it was adults doing it, you know, just like 1,000 adults. My introduction to it was 1,000 adults doing it at once together. And also with this music that is so meaningful to me, this beautiful, to me, I'm really drawn to mantra and to these songs. So to me, it was just this amazing thing. And then there I really did learn more, like discover the, like more subtly what's going on. You know, understood it was about the heart. I understood it was about building confidence just innately, but then I learned like what it's doing to the brain with the creativity there, how it can help shift the way we think about how we can free ourselves also through the movement with emotions, you know, to move the emotions, working with all the bodies, all the upper chakras. So I did learn that in this community, like just really how sophisticated it is. And so that's been 20 years, so more than 20 years now since that. So I've been practicing it, creating it and teaching it for all this time. And I know that you asked me, Allison, to speak a little bit to my process. So like how I create it, I think, yes. So for me, I fall in love with songs and music. So I just will find one that is really speaking to me, you know, that I feel this connection to, and I'll listen to it on repeat. You know, I've always been that kind of person who listens to songs on repeat. So I just will listen to a song over and over again. And it can happen in different ways. Like I know my friend put out this album about a year ago, a little more than that now. And I just listened to it like on a walk, and I created it instantaneously, like in the length of the 11-minute song. You know, it all just became like, that was kind of you could call it like a channeling or like, but I think of it more like as the listening and expression are interrelated. So by deeply listening, the expression becomes kind of revealed, or how I feel it in my body, it gets expressed. So that one just was like right away, super clear. So it can happen like that. Or sometimes I'll listen to something for a long time and I'll create like one movement, you know, one piece of it. And then like a few days later, another piece will come. So I never really force it. I do sometimes sit down and just see what happens, like kind of playing with the music. And I don't even always try to create something like final or structured. I just like allow there to be movement and see then what makes sense or what feels the most connected to the song. And so that can be, again, instantaneous sometimes, and sometimes over a week or two that I'll kind of immerse in the song and discover it more. And some are more complicated, some are quite simple as they come through, and it can be like anything. It's not, the movements can look any way. And so it's just very intuitive, I'd say, a very sensing, feeling, and intuitive practice. And what I feel is when the movements start to feel like aligned with the music, is that something does just like lock in, and I'll feel what it's meaning. Like, for example, one of my favorite mantras is Gobinde Mukande. It's like the one to overcome fear and the one to like step into that leadership. And I feel like I kind of need that medicine the most. Like it's the one that I kind of need to like take action. I need this courage supporting me. And so that one I've created, you know, multiple versions of it. But what I felt was when I create like with that, a song with Gobinde Mukande as an example, then I will feel it lock into that fearlessness and that courage, that leadership. And I'll be like, oh, it's done. It's like, it's doing the like medicine, that it's the healing that it's meant to. And I'll feel it in myself. Like I will change. Like I honestly make up most of them. Not always. Sometimes it's just for fun, but most of them end up getting created because there's something I am struggling with or something I want to shift or grow in, and that the song kind of comes to me as like, that's the one I need at this moment. And then it will, so then the movements and everything will come together to create that kind of, I guess it is a healing, modality in that way. So, and then of course, as it always is, when there's something that isn't healing in me, then it's healing for others. There's like it's kind of like I unlocked something and then I can share it. And the last thing I'll just mention about it, and it connects with what we're doing on Soul Tribe, is that, I've taught this live for many years, and we would do live, large groups, sometimes really large, like 1,000 people, but even like 100 people at a time, I would feel this where, or maybe even 50 people, where we would get into like a vortex of healing energy. Like it would be like this, it was kind of felt like maybe like a mandala was happening in a way, a moving mandala, or like there would be like a field of energy around the group practicing. And it's always really powerful and healing to experience. And then what I felt like when we went to the Soul Tribe and this time where we needed to do things online, how it started, was I felt this same vortex kind of forming of healing energy, just interconnecting us subtly, but that there was like this interconnection for all of our locations, creating like a healing web. So I find that's what's really powerful, to be able to connect in this way, is that experience of healing and of interconnectedness with one another. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so Aquarian as well, that transcending of national boundaries and like going beyond our old tribal connections and creating these new, well, Soul Tribe is the perfect name for it, isn't it? Oh yeah, that actually is such a perfect way to introduce Chiron as well, the wounded healer. So just to say a bit about how I came to Chiron. So I had this idea when we were going to do this. I thought, I'm going to look at all these profiles and there'll be one dream key we all share, and I'll talk about that. It's never that simple, is it? So there was no one dream key. So I was like, okay. But I did notice that we were all born in the 1970s, and that Adarsh and Jenn are born in 1977. And that 1977 was kind of calling me. And I was thinking, well, maybe, I'll look at the outer planets, what they were doing. And then suddenly it was like, oh my God, the Chiron was discovered in 1977. And it was a completely different body, Chiron, to an asteroid. So a centaur, and this is what Chiron did, it has this huge kind of elongated elliptical, and it crosses both Saturn and Uranus. So there's this interesting thing about Chiron, that you go into the Saturn, the journey into the underworld, and then you have the Uranus breaking free. So there's this whole idea of the wounded healer, that the answers you're seeking are inside yourself. And it's just what you were saying, Adarsh, is that the creative celestial communications, their main impulse is because you need to heal yourself, and that's how it comes about. I mean, that is so spot on Chiron. You couldn't get a better explanation, really. And he's very Aquarian in a way as well, because historically we've looked to doctors, to medicine, to give us the answer, or to the guru, to the priest. But what Chiron is about is this wounded healer journey. So he's really important, I feel, in that. And And one thing that really attracted me to the Gene Keys is that it's self-led. So, you know, I'm an astrologer, and in that role, you kind of are the expert, that you know what's in the chart and you share this with other people. Whereas the emphasis kind of shifts in the Gene Keys to being more of a guide than an expert. And I really like that, actually, because deep down, you know, that my whole life journey tells me that the person themselves already has the answer. They just on a journey to realize that they have the answer. But we all know we can spend years and years going in circles, waiting for, you know, trying to get it from outside ourselves. So Chiron is really amazing, and it is a very self-empowering body. So Chiron was discovered at 3 degrees Taurus, and there's a Sabian symbol for that point in the zodiac, which is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And Barbara Hand Clow was one of the earliest astrologers to write about Chiron, and this rainbow bridge is a really important concept as well. And it's between like an individual way of being and a transpersonal way of being. So again, on that front, I feel it's really relevant, like to Soul Tribe as well. And Adarsh, you were born just like 4 days before Chiron was discovered. So that was like, wow, you got that. And your Chiron is at the exact same point of as the discovery. So you have this very powerful Chiron. But it feels like it's relevant to all of us. I mean, I mentioned I was born in 1970, so I was actually right in my Chiron return when I had this kind of, it was like being ejected into Soul Tribe, you know, because I didn't even do yoga then, so it was like, how did that just happen? But yeah, I was having my exact Chiron return then, and so it was very relevant to my arrival. And then so I have Chiron in Aries, and then for each of us, our Chiron, you know, we have yours is towards a bit further on in Aries, and Susan's is a bit further on, and yours is right at the end of Aries, Jenn, and then Adarsh is a Taurian Chiron, and the Aries generation of Chiron, we're actually in that time now where Chiron's back in Aries, and it's a strong impulse around individual identity as being part of the whole journey. So it's not about kind of merging into a sort of mush of everyone's the same, you know, and kind of making everyone look the same, sound the same. This kind of spark of individuality is actually all part of the process. So yeah, so that's an interesting part of the Chiron as well. And so I noticed the Chiron going on, and then I noticed the Uranus going on as well. So even though Tara and Susan are born like a little bit apart, maybe about 5 or 6 months, you both have Uranus at this really important point where Uranus had just entered Scorpio, at 0 degrees Scorpio. And one of my friends actually posted this Sabian symbol yesterday. So I just wanted to kind of read this, what the meaning of this is. So if you imagine Uranus is like the revolutionary breaking open, the ruler of the Aquarius age, then apply that to this. A tunnel through a mountain. When darkness comes, you need more darkness if you're ever going to find the light. As the struggle of Earth's existence descends upon you, you must find a way to harness the power of that struggle, to turn death to rebirth. But it is so pressurized and absolutely relentless a path to walk. Everything you meet reflects the same destiny dilemma. For you are being pulled through the collective nightmare by an immense evolutionary force, and that means feeling everything, experiencing all of it, and letting everything go. Those pulled into such a radical track develop core perseverance magnificently and learn to be light while super heavy, and to stay loose while bearing down in tight passages. Eventually, glorious things happen and you can emerge into a whole other reality, knowing how purposeful every step has been, that all of it was necessary and redemptively built a character strength of a mighty fiber, as you knew it would. So that to me is just like, wow, super powerful. This Uranian, you know, this will apply to a whole generation that were born around that time. But it just feels like, you know, that it's being very powerfully carried in the sort of web of Soul Tribe. This and it's so about Chiron, because it's about not avoiding the shadow. It's about integrating the shadow and being with it. And then I'm just going to finish on saying that in 1977, Uranus was also in a really interesting point, because he was in Gene Key 44, which is, it's a really important one in the whole Gene Keys thinking, because it's this one where the gift is teamwork, and the city is Synarchy. So I talked about Synarchy at the beginning, is this, you know, this new, it's like a very alive way of organizing, and it's not controlled by the human mind. It's like we start to behave like we are one body, like we are one ecosystem. And I really perceive that. So yeah, so amazingly we are spot on time, which almost never happens.
Alison,
Yeah.
would you like to speak just maybe for a moment about your offering on Soul Tribe?
Yes. Yeah, thank you for
Hear it
reminding.
in your voice. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, because I'm so good at forgetting to do the obvious thing like that. Okay, so what we're doing is we're starting on the 20th of September, and you need to be a member of Soul Tribe to participate. It's going to be a 4-month process where we look at what's called the activation sequence. So this is your life work, your evolution, your radiance, and your purpose. And this begins the golden path journey. As Richard Rudd puts it, it's unlocking the genius in your DNA. So this is going to be available, as I say, to members of Soul Tribe, and then you also get access to all these wonderful women here, and there's others as well that are there also in the background. And it's an amazing price of $29.99 a month. It's definitely the best money I've ever spent in my life. So And I'm sure by the end of the 4 months, you won't want to leave because it's such a lovely space to be in. Yeah, and some people will be coming in who've maybe already done the activation sequence before. If you haven't done it before, I will be encouraging you to purchase that from Gene Keys, and I have affiliate links, so that would be great if you use those to do that. It will really enrich your experience, and you get the books, the webinars, you know, you get the transmission directly as well from Richard Rudd, who brought this whole system through. But the main thing is to sign up to Soul Tribe, and I will put that link below to do that. And thank you so much. I feel so honored to have landed here. It feels so right. I feel so grounded here. And yeah, so may our journey be abundant and prosperous and healing for everyone who is part of that. And thank you all for your time this morning, and we will meet again very soon. Namaste.
Namaste, Satnam. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Allison.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.